To write a little bit of code that would help us, that's going to help us understand the get function a little bit before Thursday's class. And I thought this would be kind of a fun little bit of code to write. It's not really directly related to your game, but we're going to use the same techniques to be able to check to see if we hit barriers, or to write a victory condition for when you finish your maze. So the code that we're going to use, what we're going to do here is we're going to make code here. I'm going to write this up here. Code that checks if you are on a certain color circle and tells you when you press the mouse. That's the code that we're going to write. Let me make this bigger so you can see. So that's documenting the purpose of our code. So let's get started. Let's do our setup, void setup. Let's make our size 600 by 300. And I'm going to make my background, and I'm going to put it in setup black for reasons that will become clear in a little while. Okay, so there's my code. Now I'm going to make a draw loop. And I'm just going to run it to make sure I didn't mess anything up. And you can see I have a nice little sketch. All right, in my draw loop, I'm going to make 3 shapes, 3 circles. First, I want to make sure, it doesn't really matter, but I don't want them to have an outline. So I'm going to say no stroke, which is the command for no stroke on the outside. And I'm going to make 3 fill commands. I'm going to write the fill commands, and then we'll put the shapes. Fill 25500. You might recall that's red. Fill 0255, 0 is green. And fill 00255, oops, is blue. Okay, those are my 3 fill commands. Now, and I'm going to document what I'm doing here so we know. Create a red, green, and blue circle. Okay, let's make a red circle, and I'll show you where we'll see how I want them to be evenly spaced and centered, 100 by 100 each. So ellipse. I'm going to put the first one at 100, 100, and then one at 100 wide and 100 tall. And that's, just ironic that they're all the same number, but let's take a look and make sure. Yep. Oh, you know what? I don't want it at 100, 100. I want it at 100, 150. So it's right in the middle since my size is 300 high. It'll just look better. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to copy this. I'm going to be a little efficient here. And I'm going to change this. The only thing I'm going to change is the location of my second one, which is going to be at 300. And I'm going to change the location of my third one, which is going to be at 500. So now I have 3 ellipses, one at 100, 150, one at 300, 150, and one at 500, 150. The first is red, the second is green, and the third is blue. Let's take a look. There we go. I have my ellipses. Now I want it to be that when I click on the mouse, it's going to say you're on a blue circle, you're on a green circle, you're on a red circle, you're not on a circle, silly. That's what it's going to say. And now I could put those commands in the draw loop. But then what will happen is if I just glide my mouse over those, it'll just be like you're on a red circle, you're on a red circle, you're on a red circle, and that's going to be annoying. So instead, I want to use an event function similar to key pressed, which we used in class, but this one is called mouse pressed. And so only things will happen in mouse pressed if the mouse is pressed while it's being pressed. So let's write that event function, void mouse pressed. That's the function. Whatever I put in here will only happen. It'll interrupt the draw loop and only happen when the mouse is pressed. And here's where I'm going to use my get functions as well as some if statements. So if, now here's the way the get function works. I want to check for red first. I'm going to say if the red at the location of my mouse, if the color of the location of my mouse has a red value of 255, then say I'm on a red circle. The way you do that, if red, parentheses, get, so it's going to get the amount of red, just that's the order it goes in, at mouse X, mouse Y, the location of my mouse, mouse Y. So it's going to get the pixel color at mouse X, mouse Y, and it's going to check for the red. So this whole thing is basically giving me the amount of red at the location of my mouse, if that equals 255, and now I'm going to close my if statement. The order of the structure of the parentheses here is very important and easy to get wrong. Usually if it doesn't work, it's because you put the parentheses in a funny place. So just think about that one more time. It's checking at mouse x mouse y, getting the pixel color. Then it's checking for how much, it's taking the pixel color of the red. So you have parentheses here and parentheses here, and then closes with two parentheses, and then we're checking if this is actually just a number equals 255, then do this. Print line, this is a red circle. Semicolon, end. Okay, so let's see if that works before we do anything else. Yep, it told me this is a red circle. Great. So now I can again be efficient with my code. I can copy this, put another if statement here. This time though, I'm going to check for the green. Works the same way. I'm going to print this is a green circle. And I can check one more time for blue, not glue. Okay, so it's going to do that if I'm on a red circle, a green circle, or a blue circle. So I'm going to put here, document this function out, tells me the color of a circle when I press the mouse. Let's just leave it at that because that's all it does right now. Let's check. This is a red circle, this is a green circle, this is a blue circle. But now, like if I click around here, you see how it just stays on the last thing it did? It's like kind of misleading, right? Because it looks like it thinks this is a blue circle. And if you were like making big fancy life decisions based on the color circle you were on, you might get confused and think, well, I'm on a blue circle, I'm going to do this thing, but clearly I'm not on a blue circle. So that would be bad outcome. So we need to make this code a little bit smarter. One of the ways we're going to make it smarter and more efficient is by using else if statements. Because it's kind of silly, if you're on a red circle, the computer doesn't really need to also check if you're on a green or a blue circle. Like if this is true, right now the computer is also checking that this is true and this is true, but there's no need for that because this is the first line. Similarly, if this is false, it's going to go on, it's going to check that this is true. If this is true, it's still going to check this condition too. And that's a waste of its energy. So we're going to use what's called else if. Else if only checks the second statement if the first one is false. So if I put that here, it's basically, is it red? Nope. Is it green? Nope. Is it blue? Yes. But if it's like, is it red? Yep, then it doesn't even bother checking these because it knows it doesn't need to. And that's a really smart use of the computer's time and energy. So let's see that it works just the same. And again, now I'm clicking on, this, and it's like still telling me incorrectly that it's a blue circle, which is not what I want it to do. So I need one more statement. And since it's my last one, I'm just going to call it else because I want this to happen. If none of these are true, this is the thing I want to always happen. So it's just else, meaning if none of those are true, do this. I'm going to print line. You can guess what I'm going to write. You're not on a circle, silly. Semicolon, end. So now let's trace this through. I'm going to redocument. Tells me if I am not on a circle. So it says, is it red? Yes or no? If no, is it green? If no, is it blue? If no, you're not on a circle. That's what this does. But if it's green, it's not even going to bother executing the next two commands. So that's more efficient code. All right, let's run it and see. Red circle, green circle, blue circle. You're not in a circle, silly. Not in a circle, silly. This is much smarter code now. My code knows what I'm doing and it can inform me properly what's happening. Okay, let's recap. I documented my code that checks if you're on a certain color circle and tells you when you press the mouse. Probably you could come up with a better way to phrase that, but this is what I have. I set up a canvas and I gave it a black background, and now you can see why I made my background black, because I'm checking for the red, green, and blue values of 255. If the background was white, clicking on the background, it would think that this is true if you're on a white background. So I chose a black background on purpose. Now for my draw loop, I have no stroke. I made a red circle, a green circle, and a blue circle. Then I ended the draw loop. I used an event function to write some if statements. If the red get at the mouse location is 255, say this. Else if green, say this. Else if blue, say this. Else, say this. And that's my code. And it works. All right, so I will paste this code under this video. Your only async was to watch this video and try to understand this. You could watch it more than once if you want. Copy the code, run it. You could even modify and play with it if that's helpful. And that's all I have. All right, guys, I will see you later. Bye.